Red Square, a place of power and piety, and at its heart, a museum with secrets dark and strange. A terrible Ivan, a revolutionary Rolls-Royce, Napoleon's most shameful dishonor, and the lost art of winning a lethal game. Secrets hidden in plain sight inside Moscow's State Historical Museum. From the Stone Age to the modern day, the State Historical Museum of Moscow tells the story of Russia and her people. The 19th century gallery is filled with artifacts that speak of wealth, nobility, and sudden death. This is the museum's collection of dueling pistols. It's one of the largest of its kind in the world and is never seen by the public.
Перед вами дуэльный гарнитур, состоящий из пары дуэльных пистолетов. Они всегда изготавливались парами, были идентичны совершенно оба пистолета.
The pistols are ornate, almost works of art. That's because they were made only for a select few. In 19th century Russia, pistol duels were the preferred method of settling disputes among the noble class. By 1715, dueling had become so popular, it was killing off many members of Russian aristocracy. The Tsar outlawed the practice, declaring it foolish. But not all duelists were fools. The brilliant writer and poet Alexander Pushkin is considered to be the father of Russian literature. But in his own time, Pushkin was notorious for fighting duels. A nobleman with a sharp tongue, he was often challenged by other nobles who claimed he had offended their honor.
Как-то Пушкин сказал, что вот Алиуту трудно будет понять психологию дворянина. Вот для них ценность достоинства была выше, чем даже жизни.
The offended nobles came to the dueling field angry, while Pushkin maintained his cool. 28 times he faced a hot-headed opponent, and 28 times he survived. But his 29th duel cost him his life. What went wrong? That is our museum's secret. Our investigation starts here, on a gun range just outside Moscow. Russian historian and author Alexei Vostrikov is eager to reenact Pushkin's last duel. But before he can do that, he'll need to learn to shoot.
То я всегда много писал и даже читал про то, как стреляют, как заряжают, как готовят из этих пистолетов, и даже никогда не мечтал, что мне когда-нибудь...
Okay, this is our pistol.
Military historian Andrei Shildbach has brought a replica of the type of dueling pistol that Pushkin would have used.
Now we start loading it. We make sure that the powder is compact enough. We are ready to shoot, but first don't forget to put it...
Of course, the best way to survive a duel is not to fight one.
Okay, yes.
But in a society where honor was paramount, that wasn't always an option. A nobleman's honor was in the greatest danger at social occasions. Fancy dress balls were rife with sexual tension, often instigated by men, but sometimes the flames of jealousy were fanned by women. Pushkin's wife, Natalia, was a notorious flirt. At a public function, he caught her enjoying the attention of a handsome French officer, Georges Dantes. Hurt and enraged, Pushkin challenged Dantes to a duel. Back at the gun range, Alexei is making slow progress.
And the recoil will be quite strong. Не думаю, что я попал.
Нет, если бы еще Пушкин был.
Меня уже убили.
Determined to channel Pushkin's cool, Alexei collects his nerves and steadies his hand.
Теперь я могу целиться.
Andrei has brought along an opponent for Alexei, champion marksman Alexander Lebedev.
Вот это Александр. Это
Алексей,
Алексей.
очень приятно. Вы, наверное, думаете, что такой теоретик, как я, не смог бы выйти на дуэль с настоящим оружием в руках?
Для этого нужна практика какая-то. Технически, теоретически вы все что-то узнали, а вот психологически, я думаю, слабовато.
Не хотите ли вы доказать свое мнение с оружием в руках?
Даже так? Вы готовы?
Like the duelists of Pushkin's era, Alexei and Alexander will face each other in a secluded area.
Итак, господа, настало время дуэли. Ну вот, это ваше снаряжение.
But for the purposes of our demonstration, they will not fire lead balls at each other. Instead, they are each equipped with a modern air gun that shoots a single paintball.
Такие вот пейнтбольные пластики.
А это пластик, а внутри него
Краска.
находится краска, которая будет обозначать ранение.
Конечно.
В том случае, когда кто-то из нас, я уточняю, кто-то из нас попадет.
Да.
In accordance with 19th century rules, the opponents will begin 20 paces apart. At 5 paces, there is a line that neither man is allowed to cross.
И я отхожу от него еще на 5 шагов. 2, 3, 4, 5. Это место, с которого я начну свою дуэль.
Lowering a handkerchief will signal the beginning of the duel. The duelists then have a choice. They can take their shot immediately, or wait until they move closer to their opponent. When Pushkin dueled with Dantes, he was filled with rage. He charged the line, hoping to score a kill shot at close range. But his anger-fueled plan failed. Dantes fired first, scoring a direct hit to Pushkin's midsection. On the modern gun range, Alexei and Alexander take their positions.
Проверьте ваше оружие. Вы готовы?
Я готов.
Я готов.
Are you wounded?
Я ранен, но рана у меня легкая. Вы удовлетворены?
Я удовлетворен на все 100.
В таком случае у нас нет больше причин для ссор.
Help.
Спасибо.
Пойдем.
Я, говоришь, куда попал?
А он
ранил.
As Pushkin lay wounded, he struggled to take his shot. Dantes did the honorable thing by standing still while Pushkin fired. He received only a flesh wound. 2 days later, Pushkin would die of his injuries. The greatest writer in Russia, killed because he lost his cool in his 29th duel.
Сегодня я понял, что главный секрет на дуэли – это никогда не бояться ни соперника, ни обстоятельств, ни ничего.
In Moscow's State Historical Museum, one can stroll back through time, all the way to the Stone Age. Here, in a gallery dedicated to Russia's earliest inhabitants, there is something haunting and strange. The skeletons of a boy and a girl that were buried head to head in a single grave. Their remains were unearthed not far from Moscow, where they had laid undisturbed for over 20,000 years. Both children were covered with beads that numbered in the thousands. Why they were buried this way and why they died so young is a museum secret. Our investigation begins in the town of Zarayusk, 160 kilometers south of Moscow, in the region where the children lived their brief lives. In the shadow of a 500-year-old castle, there is a 23,000-year-old Stone Age settlement. Here, archaeologist Sergei Lev leads a team that has uncovered a wealth of evidence about how early humans lived and died.
In prehistoric times, they were hunting. It was a perfect view on a valley, and they can see animals walking there. And the site is rich very much in artifacts. Very, very many. Now the collection is coming to 1 million pieces.
Along with flint tools and knives, the team has discovered a fertility goddess and a talisman of the natural world.
We see the most impressive object is here. It is the bison figurine. From the other side, there is a traces of red ochre, symbolizing blood. And we think it is a real magic ritual linked with hunting.
The bison is carved from the same material as the beads from the children's grave. Ivory from the tusk of a woolly mammoth. During the Stone Age, woolly mammoths were by far the biggest game, as heavy as a bus, with tusks 5 meters long. In the museum, above the children's bones, a panorama depicts the long-held theory that hunters killed mammoths by driving them into giant pits. Sergei believes the illustration is out of step with recent discoveries.
From modern point of view, it looks a little bit fantastic, because first, if it is permafrost, it is quite hard to dig in it. And you can imagine the size of mammoth and what size of pit it should be. So maybe after 1 year of work, they will succeed, but how they will put mammoth inside? So, summary, this theory doesn't work.
Sergei has found evidence that the pits were actually dwellings, roofed with mammoth bones and hides.
It means that it was very, very, very much important in their life. They used them for constructions, they used them for producing tools, and probably for food.
The latest research suggests that mammoths were brought down with spears. In the treeless tundra, some spears were made from mammoth tusks that were straightened over a flame. Such spears were found in the children's grave. This could mean that the children took part in a hunt and were killed by misadventure, crushed or gored by a wounded beast. If so, their bones may tell the story. Recently, at Moscow's Archaeological Forensic Laboratory, Dr. Maria Mednikova ran a battery of tests.
Concerning these remains, we haven't found indications of trauma in this case.
But while none of the children's bones were broken, their teeth show something unexpected.
We can notice such transversal lines on their anterior teeth. Here and also here they are visible. That means that growth of those children was interrupted by some strong hunger, starvation.
This suggests that in the region where the children lived, game was becoming scarce. As hunger and desperation grew, their tribe may have appealed to a higher power for help. That brings us back to the thousands of beads in the children's grave. Researchers have determined that each bead took at least an hour to make. The enormous effort suggests an extraordinary purpose.
They were decorated in special rich manner to send some message to, in other words, to God.
Maria can't say how the children died, but she believes she knows why.
Such young people, they were very important for their society because they were just close to the adults and they were hope of society. They could be a gift for some gods, so they could be sacrificed.
Covered in beads of ivory, a boy and girl were sent into the hereafter so that their tribe could continue to walk the earth. Today, just outside the State Historical Museum in Red Square, Russia and Poland will meet in battle. In this annual military band competition, Poland and Russia vie for top honors. Today, their rivalry is all good fun. But in the 17th century, Poland and Russia were at each other's throats in a bloody struggle for supremacy in Eastern Europe. And at the forefront of this conflict, a warrior both dark and strange.
Одним из наиболее интересных и редких памятников оружейной коллекции Государственного исторического музея является польский доспех крылатого гусара.
For nearly 2 centuries, Poland's winged hussars were undefeated across the battlefields of Europe, and the most feared army in the land. The reason why is our museum's secret. To investigate, we've come to the ranch of Hussar enthusiast and proud Polish-American, Rick Fox. The purpose of the wings has baffled and divided historians for centuries. Some believe that the wings made a hissing sound, and that the hissing of 1,000 wings would have terrified the enemy. Did a frightening sound give Polish hussars the edge?
There's lots of legends about the wings. Some say that they made noise, some say they vibrated. My wings have, on rare occasions, have made a buzzing sound. They've scared horses that were nearby, so we know that to be true. I've never actually had myself mic'd. We've never done a setup like this before to try and see if we can replicate it.
With the aid of a sensitive sound recorder,
Recording now.
Rick hopes to capture any sound the wings might make and put the age-old debate to rest.
Okay, so we've got the recorder here. I'm going to take a listen and see what we got. Couldn't really hear anything. Did you hear anything?
I hear a lot of wind, just ambient noise. Wind, flags, horse, and armor.
Yeah.
I can't hear the wings. And of course, I'm sitting in front of the feathers, and I didn't hear anything today, so.
No. It's unfortunate. I would have liked to hear it.
Hate to put a pin in the romantic balloon of the legend, but there's more going on the battlefield by real sounds of war that are going to overshadow any sounds that the wings may have made.
If it wasn't sound that terrified their enemies, then what could it have been? Rick thinks the answer lies in something that every hussar carried into battle.
The signature weapon of the Hussars was the lance, in Polish called kopia. They were hollowed out for lightness. They were designed to impale and shatter on impact. And it was a terrifying weapon.
While Russian infantrymen had pikes that were 15 feet long, the hussars' lances measured 20. So in a battle with a Russian adversary, a Polish hussar could impale his target 5 feet before his enemy could reach him. As lances go, the Hussars' weapon was highly effective. But by the 17th century, both Russia and Poland were fielding regiments of armored musketeers. You might think that muskets would have stopped the Hussars in their tracks, but they didn't.
Those weapons were not rifled. They weren't accurate. It was a ball, didn't always fit perfectly. Powder consistency wasn't always right on. It was hit and miss.
Unlike the plodding Russian infantry, the winged Hussars were lightning fast.
The Hussars would start at a walk, then it would work their way to a trot. The enemy would fire a salvo, and within that moment of going from trot to canter to gallop, Hussars would pretty much cross the field in moments before, the muskets could actually hit them.
With speed, precision, and sheer force, the Hussars easily smashed through Russian infantry columns. And there was one more thing that assured their victory in battle.
To see a charge coming at you, several hundred or several thousand, the ground shook like an earthquake. And through the smoke and the musket, the powder burning, and clouds of gun smoke in front of you, and you would start to see the tops of the lance pennants coming towards you, and the wings, those spectacular wings, you knew there was not going to be too many guys with dry pants, because to receive a charge from the Hussars is death.
And that's why every Russian soldier feared the angels of death of the battlefield, the Polish winged Hussars. It would take several centuries for conflict between Russia and Poland to be reduced from violence on the battlefield to a battle of the bands. Just outside Moscow's State Historical Museum, tourists pose with lookalikes from Russia's past. Tsar Nicholas II, Vladimir Lenin, and Joseph Stalin. This woman looks unafraid. Perhaps that's because she doesn't know that she's posing with Ivan the Terrible. Inside the museum, Ivan has an entire gallery all to himself.
В этом зале Иван Грозный чувствовал бы себя как в царских палатах. И каждый посетитель музея испытывает немного такие ощущения. В витрине памятники, которые рассказывают о эпохе Ивана Грозного.
The case contains several books in Ivan's own handwriting. And above them is this.
Самый интересный и вызывающий много вопросов экспонат в этой витрине – власеница, которая по преданию принадлежала самому Ивану Грозному.
Hair shirts were often worn by monks who hoped to show remorse for their sins by suffering extreme pain.
Когда человек, который осуществлял молитву, бил поклоны, то есть наклонялся, то грубая ткань власеницы разбивала его тело в кровь.
Why would Ivan the Terrible, powerful leader and notorious tyrant, want to wear this? How did Ivan the Terrible become Ivan the Remorseful? That is our museum's secret. The story begins in 1547, as a young Ivan is crowned the first Tsar of Russia. He came to power at a time when Russia's noble class, the boyars, were agitating for a larger share of power. Some may have believed that Ivan would be a pushover. They were wrong. The new Tsar sought to unify and modernize his nation, protecting the borders by creating a people's army known as the Streltsy. Ivan was a complicated man. He was an avid chess player who brought careful calculation into everything he did. He was also deeply religious, Like his subjects, he believed that even the smallest sin could lead to eternal damnation. He felt that his subjects would be more likely to follow him if they understood the depth of his religious devotion. To prove his piety, he built the church that has become an icon of Russia itself, St. Basil's Cathedral.
Ivan the Terrible believed that God was on his side because the God, as he believed, gives him a power to rule the country. That was his mission.
Believing he should answer to God alone, Ivan proposed laws that would give him absolute power. The boyars resisted, insisting that Ivan rule by consensus. Instead of leading an army against the boyars, Ivan made an unexpected move. He left his palace in Moscow to take up residence in the village of Alexandrov-Sloboda. Historian Larissa Zaruskaya believes this was a brilliant tactic.
Когда Иван Грозный приезжает в Александровскую Слободу, то бояре находятся в полнейшей растерянности, потому что столица осталась без правителя русского государства.
Ivan knew that the boyars would realize that they couldn't rule Russia without him, and soon they begged him to come back. Ivan agreed to return on condition that the boyars accede to his demand for absolute power, and that he be allowed to command his own secret police. Ivan ordered them to identify and arrest anyone who might pose a threat to his rule. His methods were ruthless and terrifying. And when suspected traitors wouldn't talk, Ivan had them brought here.
Нижний ярус дворца Ивана Грозного. И в настоящее время здесь воссоздан застенок грозненского времени.
Under Ivan's direction, his secret police extracted information and confessions through brutality and torture. Victims were flayed alive and boiled in oil. Often their agony lasted for days. Ivan's methods cemented his power, giving him the authority to launch wars that would expand and unify the Russian state. He would continue to use torture to pursue his goals until, in the 37th year of his reign, he began to reflect on his sins. He feared no man, but he did fear God.
He was very religious. He knew that he would like to enter paradise someday, and he knew that he was very severe, and a lot of people were brought into prison and were killed according to his order. And as a religious man, he started to be prepared for this new afterlife.
In an attempt to appease God, Ivan ordered the creation of this, a synodic, a Russian Book of the Dead.
В этой книге историки увидели имена, которые совпадают с именами казненных людей во время Ивана Грозного. Предположили, что этот синодик создан по указу Ивана Грозного для поминовения его жертв.
For each name, a prayer was to be given to soothe the souls of those who perished under Ivan.
Таким образом, Иван Грозный хотел часть вины с себя снять, если этих людей будут поминать.
But Ivan worried that it wasn't enough. He'd forgotten many of his victims' names.
Далеко не полный. На страницах синодика можно даже встретить такие слова. Их имена только ты, Боже, ведаешь.
And so, tormented still, Ivan turned to the garment that would make him penitent in the eyes of God. And legend has it that for the remainder of his days, Ivan wore only the hair shirt. And that's because Ivan the Terrible had become Ivan the Remorseful. The newest wing of the State Historical Museum is dedicated to Napoleon's invasion of Russia, or as it's known to Russians, the Patriotic War of 1812. The collection celebrates one of Russia's greatest victories and one of Napoleon's worst defeats. Every year, thousands of reenactors come to Russia to commemorate the Battle of Borodino, Napoleon's army's bloodiest day. The reenactors pride themselves on authenticity. From their uniforms, to their weapons, to this, the French imperial eagle. The eagle was a sacred emblem that every French regiment carried into battle. French soldiers swore to defend it to the death. Inside the State Historical Museum is an imperial eagle of the 3rd French Regiment, one of the few surviving examples in the world. But this eagle should not be here. The reason why is a museum secret. The secret has brought Victor Iser to Russia from his home in Canada. Victor is the president of a Montreal-based reenactment group called Brigade Napoleon. He's here as a member of the Imperial Guard, but he's also a soldier of the 3rd Regiment. That gives him a special interest in the museum's eagle.
The eagle represents our regiment. It has our number on it. We follow it. And even in a reenactment, when we have a mock battle, the eagle is protected. If you lost your eagle, it was a terrible disgrace. The interesting thing about reenactors, when we don the uniforms, we feel younger and we feel passionate. We're proud of our regiment. So just as the eagle was life and death to the regiments 200 years ago, we feel very much the same way. So when I heard that there was an eagle in Moscow, I was interested. But when it was described as 3rd of the line, I suddenly questioned how that could be. As far as we know, we never lost an eagle in battle.
The 3rd French Infantry was one of the most illustrious regiments in Napoleon's army. Its soldiers were often bloodied, but never defeated. And according to the regiment's records, they never left an eagle behind.
The possibility to go and see the eagle with my own eyes and try and resolve the discrepancy between the history I know and whatever background history they have on their eagle is essential. I can't go home without that.
Victor's next stop, the 1812 Gallery. He's going to examine the museum's eagle with the help of curator Dmitry Puzakov.
So here is the famous eagle, the eagle of the 3rd Regiment of the Line.
This is what I've come so far to see.
I've noticed this button with the number 3, so it makes that eagle of your regiment.
Well, certainly my heart is pounding, and that's why for me it's, of course, emotionally looking at it and saying, I know my regimental history says we didn't lose it. And then when you see it, then you go, I don't know, some mystery is there.
Victor needs to take a closer look. Because the eagle is too precious to be removed from its case, Victor and Dmitry decide to take some high-definition photographs. They hope to capture details that are invisible to the naked eye. On a computer monitor, they examine the image in a magnified view.
Maybe on the close-ups we can, there we go.
Yeah.
At this point, the two men make a surprising discovery.
There was something that was then stretched off with the lighting.
And you really see that there's...
That's 5.
And I think that's definitely a 1.
1.
It's nice.
Definitely not authentic number.
The men are stunned. The original number was not 3, but 15. Dmitry suspects that someone assembled the eagle and its number from available parts.
And my guess would be that they had an eagle with a damaged number for 15, and they had an authentic number 3. and put it on the base of the eagle to make it look more authentic than with the broken numbers.
Yeah.
Victor knows that there were several Napoleonic regiments with the number 15. One 15th regiment served in Russia and was decimated during Napoleon's final defeat at Waterloo. But when the regiment was disbanded, its eagle was destroyed. There is no record that any 15th regiment ever lost its eagle. Victor and Dmitri have solved one mystery, only to reveal another.
I'm much relieved that it's not my regiment that lost its eagle, but still to be able to see 200 years of history there is very moving. If I was someone from the 15th who happened to be touring through, I'd like to know where it came from, how it got there. But with the few eagles still existing in the world, they now represent all the French armies that fought during that period. So today it really doesn't matter whether it's the 3rd or the 15th, whatever. The respect that the men held for it, that the men died for it, followed it, is still there. So it's no less valuable. And anyone seeing the eagle should be proud of that type of heroic determination.
Moscow's State Historical Museum makes no secret of the opulent lifestyle of the Tsars. Over the centuries that they ruled, the Tsars acquired enormous wealth. But all this ended with the Communist Revolution of 1917. After the execution of Tsar Nicholas, the culture of excess was replaced by the classless equality of the Soviet state. And that makes one of the museum's acquisitions a little strange. It's the only artifact with fog lamps and an all-leather interior.
It's a Rolls-Royce car, silver ghost model.
This luxury vehicle was owned by communist leader Vladimir Lenin.
Lenin used this car for traveling around Moscow, to the suburbs of Moscow, in the surroundings. Of course, it was very convenient for Lenin, I think, to make speeches and to have some discussions, maybe with people who gathered around the cars in the Red Square or in the streets of Moscow.
Lenin declared that revolutionaries must guard against bourgeois tendencies. So why did Lenin own a Rolls? That's our museum secret. The investigation begins at Moscow's premier Rolls-Royce showroom. Until the fall of the Soviet Union, there were no dealerships in Russia. But perhaps a visiting salesperson convinced Lenin that the Rolls was his kind of car.
People who buy Rolls-Royces are definitely very successful people.
So far, so good. Lenin was definitely a successful revolutionary.
And they don't want any compromises.
That sounds like Lenin, too. When counter-revolutionaries challenged him, he started a bloody civil war. Definitely not a compromiser.
Of course, these people can afford to buy the best.
That part doesn't sound like Lenin. He wasn't a rich man. But early on in the revolution, his Bolsheviks had liberated the Tsar's gold and the Tsar's collection of fine automobiles.
There were about 40 motor cars in the Tsarist garage.
And it seems that even the communist leaders were not against such cars.
So perhaps Lenin owned this Rolls because he got it for free. To be certain, we'll need to prove that Tsar Nicholas was the original owner.
Unfortunately, we haven't got the original documents. But if we speak about our car and about its identity, we have got the chassis number. And the chassis number is fixed to the front of the dashboard, under the bonnet.
17 kg is clearly visible. But with a car this old, it would be surprising if the chassis number could be traced. Or maybe not.
Rolls-Royce keeps records on all the cars of previous years to track those cars that have wonderful history behind them.
Incredibly, a request to head office elicits the original bill of sale. The purchaser was not Tsar Nicholas, but an emissary of Vladimir Lenin. The date is 1922. In the years following the Bloody Revolution, all industrial nations imposed an embargo forbidding trade with the Russian communist state. So how did Lenin manage to do business with a British car maker? A clue lies not in cars, but planes. Rolls-Royce made the best engines for bomber planes, and Lenin needed them for his war machine. Lenin asked the British to break the embargo. He knew that Britain was mired in depression, with idle factories and hungry workers. British leaders held their noses and allowed Lenin to buy several of their most advanced airplane engines. To sweeten the deal, Lenin was given a 15% discount on something else: a Rolls-Royce automobile. The Rolls-Royce plane engines helped Lenin and his Bolsheviks win the Civil War and impose a brutal totalitarian state. But the question remains, should he have kept the car?
Of course not. Lenin was our leader of a communist party, and the motto of that party was that all people have to be equal. He should have done something that the whole country is driving Rolls-Royces.
In this place where power and piety meet, for every mystery we reveal, far more must remain unspoken. Secrets of sacrifice and strategy, hidden in plain sight, inside Moscow's State Historical Museum.